call this General Services meeting together, May the 8th, 2017 at 12 o'clock. We have 8 items on the agenda, and so let's go through them and go through them fast. Number 1, request for destruction of records. Renata.
I have a list for destruction of records.
Yeah.
These are housekeeping, and we're just following our destruction and record policy. And these are items that in our cleaning out our files and things, either needs to be destroyed. It's just approval for us to destroy these records, please.
Okay, any questions?
No questions.
Need a motion.
I make a motion to authorize staff to proceed with the destruction of records as listed pursuant to Idaho Code 50-908.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
May we move these to the consent calendar?
What's that?
May we move this item to the consent calendar?
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, second thing, annexation agreement with River's Edge Apartments. Mr. Mike Gridley.
Good afternoon. This is a straightforward agreement for the annexation of a triangle piece of property. It's about 4 acres south of Celtice, west of Riverstone. And it's come in, it was annexed by the city a couple years ago, and never were able to get an annexation agreement finished. And now well, actually it was annexed in May of 2014, so actually 3 years ago. They've come through recently and got a special use permit for the property that will allow R34 zoning. I think the intent is they're going to build a 130-unit residential apartment building. Most things are pretty straightforward. They will pay annexation fees of almost $98,000, and then build the water, sewer, and driveway improvements required for the development.
Any questions?
Just one. Mike, does this have any bearing either way on the negotiations that are ongoing right now with the surrounding property?
No. Now, this is one that is owned by someone else, and they annexed it, or council approved annexation some time ago. I think the surrounding property that the city's looking to buy, if we complete that sale, or we'll complete the annexation of that property as part of our purchase, but
Okay,
it all fits together.
good. Thanks.
Any other question? Need a motion.
I move for approval of the annexation agreement with River's Edge Apartments, LLC.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, Mike. Okay, item number 3, franchise agreement with Newmax LLC. Mike Gridley.
This is a franchise agreement, which proposed franchise agreement. Franchise agreements are typically give companies the right to use the public right-of-way. In this case, it's use it for fiber optic cable. And we've granted other franchises to similar companies under similar terms. Fat Beam, Time Warner, Vista, we recently approved one. What we get in return for that, or what the public gets in return for that, is a payment of 5% of the annual gross revenues derived from the fiber optic operation in the city. So I don't know what that number will be, but it will be probably a number that grows over time. But rather than them having to come in every time they want to cross or install our right-of-ways, this will give them an opportunity or the ability to do that. They still have to go through planning or not planning. Well, they go through planning, but primarily building for any kind of building permits, and engineering will review plans for anything that goes in the right of way.
Any questions?
Just one.
Okay, go ahead.
So, Mike, the length of time of 10 years, is that similar to the other Fat Beam and Time Warner, the similar service providers, are 10-year agreements too? And is their percentage the same too?
Yep.
Is that regulated by anything other than this franchise agreement?
State law does regulate it, and federal law to some extent. It's a very complicated question. And there may be changes over time as the feds and the state may choose to limit what we can do in regulating our own right-of-ways. But for right now, that's something we
That's
can
what
do.
it is. Good, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, need a motion?
I would make a motion to approve the 10-year franchise agreement with Newmax LLC, doing business as Intermax Networks.
Second.
Any more discussion? Any? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, item number 4, approved public tree list revision. Katie?
Thank you very much for having me here today. I do have a quick presentation about the revision of the approved street tree list. The approved street tree list was first established in 1985 and has gone through periodic changes since then. The list establishes a guide for trees appropriate to plant street side. These are trees that don't drop a lot of fruit or have invasive root systems, things like that, all the while providing lots of environmental, social benefits street side. We'd like to amend the list to add more species to choose from. These are trees that are proven well for our zone, and many of our surrounding communities plant these trees. The main reason for the revision today is to remove a couple of tree species from the list. The first one are these purple robe black locust trees. They're supposed to be a better variety than the typical black locust. They're thornless, have a nice flower, but we're seeing about at 6 inches in diameter, they get taken over by locust borers, and they don't live after that. So luckily we don't have a whole lot of those planted street side, so it's not that big of an issue, but we just don't want more people to continue planting those street side. The second one, and the main reason for this revision, are to take all fraxinus species off of the list. Those are ash trees, white ash, green ash, not mountain ash, which are a sorbus species. The reason we want to do that is because of this insect pest here, the emerald ash borer. First discovered in Michigan, is spreading this way. We're told by the Idaho State Community Forester that it's a matter of when, not if. The insect has caused, estimated in the billions of dollars in damage, and it's been found as close as Colorado. The insect is a large green borer. The larva caused the damage. D-shaped exit holes. The insect itself can only move a mile or two, but people are moving it in firewood. There are hundreds of millions of dead trees over on the East Coast, and people are moving that wood around. This insect is, they're saying it's very much more serious than chestnut blight or even Dutch elm disease. And it came from Asia, likely in shipping materials, and it doesn't have any natural predators here, so it's very destructive. We have currently over 1,600 ash trees in our public tree inventory. If you imagine all of Lakeside, ash trees, back at the seawall, ash trees. So we just don't want to be planting more of them. So that's why it's very important to have this approved street tree list, have lots of diversity in species that we're planting, not have a whole lot of one thing, because typically any insect or disease are specific to a certain species of plant. And with that, I'd like you to consider recommending approval of the revision to the approved street tree list.
Any questions?
Just one, is there anything we can do to help minimize the impact when they do arrive and if they arrive?
So currently, the Department of Agriculture through APHIS, they have put up these large purple traps in some of our ash trees. They've been monitoring Idaho for some years for it. There are some herbicide or pesticides, insecticides that can be used once we know they're here to treat some of our most valuable trees, which they said that the treatment can be 80 to 90% effective, but it is expensive. And we have a lot of trees, ash trees, so there'll be some decisions about which we may want to save.
Any other questions?
No, that's just interesting stuff, and thank you for what you do. That would be a lot of ash trees to lose.
Right.
I hope that doesn't happen.
Me too.
Need a
So
motion?
with that, I would recommend that the city council adopt the most recent draft of the approved street tree list. And
Second.
sorry, I did have one other question. Is there, with the adoption of that, some change to the ordinance language that has to be made? Is that?
No, the ordinance just states that trees for planting street side have to be selected from the most recently, adopted, approved street tree
Okay.
list.
Okay. So that's it, to adopt the most recent approved.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thanks, kiddo.
Good afternoon.
Okay, this is, number 5 is 2017 Trails and Bikeways Master Plan. Monty McCullough. Monty, go ahead.
Good afternoon. How you doing? So I came before you guys just a few months ago to present this to you. It got stalled before council because we had some new ped bike members and that hadn't had a chance to really review it, and they were experts, architects and engineers, and so we got together with them, and then we had another meeting with the public, this time here at the library. We got comments that we went through and decided whether to put them in the plan or not, if they made sense. And we've updated the plan a little bit again since the last time you saw it. The only thing that really got changed was the section on standards. So we expanded that and spelled things out quite a bit more, so it's more extensive. Other than that, the plan is pretty much the same. And I could go through those with you if you like. I also have some maps that you can look at if you're curious as to what we have proposed. But other than that, this is our plan here. I think last time we told people they could view it on our parks website. The section that got updated is down here at standards. Well, since the last time I came to you anyway. Lots of stuff got updated but in this whole plan. So here we are. We mainly added different categories of bike facilities, on-street bike facilities, and signage, and we kind of spelled out warrants for these different type of facilities. That are recommendations, they're not set in stone. So if we come to you and say we'd like a bike lane on Government Way, and you say, oh, well, your warrants here say you have to have a protected bike lane, there are more guidelines. So we'll pick the safest one, but it's not locking us into the most expensive one. So we made sure to put that in there. But the option is there, so if we do have the money and the will, we could put those kind of facilities in. And it just shows different ways to do like a shared use lane or paved shoulders, anything. It just spells it out so we have the template that the nation uses for these different types of bike facilities. And that's it.
Okay, any questions? Go ahead, Amy.
I don't have any questions, but I do want to say thank you for all your work on this, as well as Bike Ped Committee. And one of the things I really appreciated about the process was at our last Bike Ped Committee meeting, we went through every comment that the community had submitted and really evaluated that comment and to see where and if it should fit into this plan. So I really appreciate the time that you've spent. I know Chris has worked hard on this, as well as the Bike Ped Committee.
Thank you. I should note that when we went through the comments, we included everyone that wasn't already there or took an act of the state to put into a plan. So we didn't just arbitrarily cut any. We put them in. A lot of them are already in the plan, they just didn't know, or required something that it would take an act of Congress to do, like, what was it, requiring bike registration, that sort of
Right,
thing.
right. It was a great discussion, going through the community comments.
Any other questions?
So, Monty, is this online right now?
Yes.
So that someone can see it at the city website? And then, is this the same plan that we had received a couple of emails about that 11th Street dock?
Yes, yeah.
And was that map updated, or?
Yeah, the map was updated, and any reference to it in the plan was removed. There's so many different parts of the plan that sometimes they sneak past us.
Operations, right.
Even after that, when we took it to the public meeting, one section still had it, so I made sure and got rid of that.
Okay. And then, nope, I think that's all I had.
And when you had your meeting, everybody that was there basically agreed to?
Yes, everybody approved. And they voted on it and passed it on to you guys.
Do you need a motion?
I'll make a motion to recommend to City Council the adoption of the 2017 Trails and Bikeways Master Plan.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item number 6, art in motion sidewalk stencils. Monty?
Okay, so what this is we have a subcommittee that's partially the Ped Bike Committee, partially just other people who are interested in arts in the city here. And we've created some brochures over a couple years ago, and we keep updating them. And they're the art pieces in town. We call it Arts in Motion, because we've created walking maps and bike maps for people to go see all of our art pieces here in town. And it was suggested that we make some kind of stencil. I think the one we chose is the one on the right. The one on the left is another option that we can put for our downtown walking route. It's just a few blocks, maybe 10 blocks. And the idea was to get a stencil maybe 12 inches long, or maybe 18, not very large, and spray paint that in whatever color we choose. This is the color that I came up with for the idea. On the actual sidewalk itself, like 2 spots per block, so that people can know where the next piece of art is. Sometimes it's pretty difficult to figure out even maps, or just to try to find all the art pieces. So this was an idea to guide people there. And eventually in the future, we'd like to put signs up so that people can see the signs getting to that art piece. And so before we can spray paint anything on the sidewalks, we got to get it approved by council. So.
Any questions?
I just have another comment that I think this is a great collaboration between Bike Ped and the Arts Commission, and working together to highlight our fantastic pieces of art in the community, so our citizens as well as visitors can find them easily to enjoy.
Now, was this brought to your committee?
Yes, this was discussed at both committees, at Arts Commission as well as Bike Ped.
And I really want to support arts and think that that is a fabulous idea. I'm not sure that I like the painting on the sidewalk idea. And I've heard from a few other people, not Downtown Association members, but that there's a lot of signage, a lot of congestion, a lot of busyness, and that this idea would be, and I'm sure you've talked about it, better in a digital form. So you had, a map that was even interactive, or an online piece, or an app that you can do this with, because that's kind of where, directions are going. So.
And we do have that already
yeah.
too. Yeah.
So, I'm just not sure I'm I'm trying to convince myself, I want to support the committees, but I'm not sure that it's going to look good downtown to have it painted and the paint wears off and that kind of thing. And I'm just feeling like it could be a little bit of a challenge to keep it looking crisp.
And one of the things that was discussed, that if it was approved, that it would be something that was just in the interim till we get signs, like little signs to put up. That way we don't have to keep going back every year and redoing it. That was just one of the ideas.
Has this been brought to the attention of Downtown Association?
I don't believe it has. That's something that we'd have to, I probably should go do before I bring it to council then.
I would think that those business owners would. You know, and I'll speak from, I worked on a project a long time ago, and we tried to start a sidewalk chalk art program. And it was really a challenge with the business owners and, you know, some who liked it, some who didn't, and having something that was on the sidewalk and people were walking on it, and it was, you know, it became problematic. And in fact, there were business owners who went out and washed it off on their own, and because they didn't want to have to maintain it or work around it. And so I think the Downtown Association should be involved in this for sure, and maybe a little bit more public comment on something like that.
Okay.
We can put this off. Okay, we'll table this item and then let the Downtown Association
Okay.
have an opportunity to express their views on it, so.
Okay, so I'll go to them and bring them back to General Services then.
That'd be
Okay.
great.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Bonnie. Okay, item number 7. We request to extend 2-hour time limit parking to Sherman Avenue between 7th and 8th.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I am not Sam Taylor.
We know that.
Sam had a medical issue this morning he had to deal with, so I am taking over for him, and I just realized that as I was sitting here going through the agenda. But it's really a very simple issue. The 2-hour time limit only extends to 7th Street, and really we're talking about between 7th and 8th on the south side of Sherman, because the north side has so much ingress and egress, there isn't any parking on that block. But there are issues where we've got employees and others parking on the street all day, and people that want to access either the sandwich shop or Willamette Bank are unable to use those parking spaces. So that's why we're suggesting and requesting that this committee approve extending that 2-hour limit 1 block to the east.
Any questions?
And did I read this right, that actually it's in Diamond's contract to already go all the way to 8th Street, but it just wasn't written into our portion of that?
That is correct.
Okay, so we're just cleaning this up so that they can enforce where they're being paid to.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then,
Any other questions? Need a motion?
I move to approve the extension of the 2-hour time limit parking to Sherman Avenue between 7th and 8th Streets.
second?
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 8, renewal of 816 Sherman lease. Mike Gridley.
Anybody?
One more time, we're asking to renew the lease that our criminal office has been housed in for the last, 15 years almost. So the plan, as you well know, is to move to City Hall, and so one more renewal of the lease, and then we will not be paying rent anymore. So that's a good thing. So, not much else to tell about it.
You guys don't want to just sit in the park until the building's remodeled?
Well, you give us the weather forecast, we won't need that. But.
I don't have any questions on this one.
Need a motion?
I'd make a motion that we approve 6-month extension of the 816 Sherman lease agreement with Commercial Property Management LLC.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, Mike,
Thank you.
you gonna take Juanita with you?
Yeah. We couldn't do anything without her.
Yeah. Okay. Anything, Troy, you got anything? Anybody else have anything? We're adjourned. Thank you.